See through the veil, pop the illusion, truth in the rhythm, break the confusion. Cameras flash, but the script ain't true. Pyramid wisdom, I see right through. Stage lights blinding, but I don't freeze. I walk with the ancients, I move with ease. Chains of deception, they try to bind, but I crack the code in the hieroglyph signs. Baseline heavy, truth in my chest. I rise like the Nile, I don't settle for less. Don't get hypnotized, don't fall for the show. Eyes wide open, now I know. Pop the illusion, break the spell. Truth in the rhythm, I know it well. Pop the illusion, don't be deceived. Eyes wide open, now I believe. Pharaoh fire in the beat I ride. Ancient codes in the flow collide. Gold on the throne, but the mask is fake. I see through the lies, I won't take the bait. Desert winds whisper secrets untold. I spit liberation, my voice is bold. Bass hits deep like a temple drum. Illusion shattered, the truth is come. The world stage is a mask. Actors play their part, but I see beyond the cast. I guard my heart. Pop the illusion, break the spell. Truth in the rhythm, I know it will. Pop the illusion, don't be deceived. Eyes wide open, now I believe.
Welcome to the War Room. Glad to have everybody here tonight. Happy December. We survived November. Pat yourselves on the back. You thought you weren't going to make it, and here you are. Happy December. Let me get everything set up here. There we go. Got the TT88. So we covered a few topics today.
You're just rubber banding.
Oh, I'm rubber banding. How about right now? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Let me get the chat up on the screen here. Comments. What's today, Monday? I hope everybody had an amazing weekend. I hope everybody had a good Monday. Just the chat on the screen. There we go. Got that up. Hello, everyone. Yeah, you got two different versions of YouTube, right?
One's for the phone.
One's for the phone. Cat, like for instance, you see Cat Mondu is watching from the phone version of the YouTube because you have the landscape and the horizontal or portrait, something like that. Also, we got Susie watching from the phone. It kind of shows a little icon over here to the right of the screen of the different. Then we have they're watching from the regular version. This is for your TV. Right, the regular version is for like if you're watching on your YouTube from your smart TV, and then there's the version for your phone. It's two different layouts. So if you're watching from your smart TV and it looks like a phone, just back out and go into the channel in the War Room on YouTube, and you'll find the correct one. But if this doesn't work out, I'll just stop doing it. This is some new option that they have. It's called Mars. You know, I think we're on Mars. I think they're trying to tell us we're on Mars or something. So yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat. Also, we uploaded this morning's chat on Rumble. You can catch all the morning shows on Rumble. We'll have those uploaded, usually in order, sometimes maybe out of order. Either way. So it's more in depth there. We do like 3 or 4 hour morning shows, and then we do a couple hours at night.
You're rubber banding again.
Still rubber banding. How do I sound on your end, Mickey?
You sound 5x5 over here.
Yeah,
geez. Okay, sorry.
They don't like me in New York, Nadine, I guess. The internet up there.
No. If I buy some property, you guys are coming and everything will be good.
All right, so if you weren't in the chat this morning on Telegram, we'll go ahead and kind of do a brief run over of what we discussed. A little bit about Venezuela taking over the oil. They have the #1 oil reserves, right? We talked about the Great Depression, right? The Tariff Depression.
The 19.
From 1929, the stock market crashed the day before, and then they had the Gatsby event just before that, right?
Yes.
So it was like keep in mind the Trump Gatsby Halloween party here recently, right?
When they was talking about the crash,
Right.
the rich bought up the stocks at low price, got even richer. Right, it's 2024. So, and then they went into the Great Depression, right? Same thing's happening again. Right before that was tariffs, which we went over that this morning as well.
Also, why billionaires are selling everything.
Yeah, because they know what's coming. That's what they do. They sell off stocks so they can come back and buy it even cheaper.
Right. Which that could signal something between now and 6 to 12 to 18 months from now. You may see something to that effect. Like a black swan event. It's usually a financial.
He's worried about the crypto that's coming.
Yeah, so we're going to go over a few things for more financial stuff tonight to go with what we put out this morning. Also, click like and subscribe on Rumble and YouTube, and also go check out the channels that we present here for more information. Let me pull it in. Let's get the screen going. Get a nice screen there. All right, here we go. Thank you. So we have the 5-stage bank collapse, the pattern. 4 countries lost 90% of banks. USA, stage 3 begins January 2026. Maybe that's why the National Guard's kind of like being put in place in advance of something like this, because
Chaos.
of the chaos that it could create, right?
Bank runs, like we talked about the bank runs.
Bank runs, yeah,
Panic.
panic, yeah. Also, the $37 trillion Bitcoin confiscation, Trump's executive order for four-stage playbook, the 1933 pattern is repeating.
Yes, that's what we talked about this morning because it's history repeating. Except for in 1933, it was the gold. This time it's the Bitcoin.
Yeah, let me close some of this out here. Make sure we get a good. But so let's open this. The collapse here.
The 16th largest bank in America, $212 billion in assets. In March 2023, Silicon Valley Bank collapsed in 48 hours. The 16th largest bank in America, $212 billion in assets, gone. Then Signature Bank collapsed 3 days later, then First Republic in May. 3 major bank failures in 8 weeks, the biggest banking crisis since 2008. The media called it contained, the Federal Reserve called it under control. They deployed over $300 billion in emergency support programs. They backstopped uninsured deposits. They told you the worst was over. The crisis was handled. The banking system was stable. That was 2.5 years ago. And here's what they didn't tell you. Those 3 bank failures weren't the crisis. They were stage 1, just the beginning, the warning shot that nobody understood. Since March 2023, we've been living in stage 2, emergency measures, hidden support, pretend and extend, acting like everything is fine while the problems get worse underneath. The Federal Reserve's emergency lending facility pumped hundreds of billions into struggling banks. Regional bank stocks are still down 30 to 40% from their 2023 highs. Commercial real estate, the sector that will trigger the next wave, has only gotten worse. Office buildings sitting 20% vacant, property values down 50% in major markets. And $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate loans that need to be refinanced in the next 2 years at interest rates triple what they were originally. We've been in stage 2 for 32 months. And in January 2026, 6 weeks from now, stage 3 begins, the forced merger stage, when hundreds of regional banks discover they can't survive, when the FDIC starts arranging shotgun weddings between failing banks and JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. When your local bank disappears into a mega bank overnight and you have no choice about it. There's a pattern, a 5-stage pattern that has played out in 4 different countries over the last century. And it always ends the same way. 90% of banks disappear. A handful of mega banks control everything. Depositors lose access, lose choice, and in the final stage, lose money. The United States followed stage 1 in 2023. We're in stage 2 right now. And stage 3 starts in January 2026 when the commercial real estate refinancing wave hits and regional banks start failing in numbers that will shock everyone who believed the crisis was over. Let me show you how this pattern destroyed banking systems in 4 different countries, how it happened in the United States before in the 1930s, how it happened in Japan in the 1990s, how it happened in Iceland and Cyprus, and why every single warning sign says it's happening again right now, faster than 2023, and worse than anyone is prepared for. Let's start with America in 1929, because this is the clearest example of the 5-stage pattern and the exact blueprint for what's coming in 2026. In 1929, the United States had approximately 25,000 banks. 25,000. Most were small local institutions, community banks that served specific towns or regions. They took deposits from local residents and lent to local businesses. The system was fragmented, decentralized, and competitive. Then the stock market crashed in October 1929. Banks had lent money for stock speculation. When stocks collapsed 89%, those loans went bad. But the real problem wasn't the stock loans. The real problem was what happened next. Stage 1 began in late 1929. Regional stress. Small banks in agricultural areas started failing. Farmers couldn't repay loans because crop prices had collapsed. Rural banks that had lent to farmers took losses. Depositors heard about failures and started withdrawing their money from any bank that seemed weak. Bank runs accelerated. In 1930, 1,252 banks failed. Not huge banks. Regional and community banks. Stage 2 was emergency measures. The Federal Reserve could have acted aggressively. They could have flooded the system with liquidity. They didn't. They thought the failures were healthy, clearing out weak banks. So the failures continued. In 1931, 2,294 banks failed. In 1932, 456 banks failed. Over 5,000 banks gone in 3 years. But here's the key. These weren't random failures. This was consolidation. Every time a small bank failed, a larger bank absorbed its deposits and assets. JP Morgan, Chase, Bank of America. These institutions grew larger with every crisis. They had the capital to survive. They had the connections to get Federal Reserve support. And they used the crisis to eliminate competition. Stage 3 was forced mergers. By 1933, it became official policy. The government actively encouraged consolidation. Healthy banks were pushed to absorb failing banks. The FDIC was created in 1933, and one of its functions was to arrange these mergers. If you were a small bank and got into trouble, you didn't get a bailout. You got absorbed. Your depositors' accounts transferred to a larger bank. Your independence gone. Stage 4 was deposit seizures. This happened differently than you might think. In 1933, Roosevelt declared a bank holiday. All banks closed for 4 days. When they reopened, only banks deemed sound by government inspectors were allowed to operate. If your bank didn't reopen, your deposits were frozen. Trapped. You eventually got some money back, but not all of it, and not when you needed it. This was a partial confiscation through forced closure. Stage 5 was oligopoly control. By 1934, the United States had 14,000 banks, down from 25,000 just 5 years earlier, 10,000 banks eliminated. And the consolidation continued for decades. By 1980, there were 14,400 banks. By 2000, 8,300 banks. By 2020, just 4,300 banks. Today, the 4 largest banks in America, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup, hold 45% of all deposits. 4 banks, nearly half of all money. The 1930s crisis didn't just eliminate weak banks, it restructured American banking into an oligopoly controlled by a handful of institutions. And it happened through the exact 5-stage pattern we're following right now. The pattern in the 1930s was regional stress in rural areas, emergency measures that didn't stop the bleeding, forced mergers as official policy, deposit freezes and partial confiscation, and oligopoly control that persists 90 years later. Now let's jump forward 60 years to Japan in the 1990s. Different country, different era, but the exact same pattern. In 1990, Japan had 21 major banks, plus hundreds of smaller regional banks. The Japanese banking system was considered the strongest in the world. Japanese banks were the largest on earth by assets, and then the real estate bubble collapsed. Japanese property prices had increased 300% during the 1980s. Banks lent trillions against real estate, assuming prices would keep rising. When the bubble burst in 1990, property values fell 60% over the next decade. All those real estate loans went bad. Banks were sitting on massive losses but didn't admit it. They kept the bad loans on their books at inflated values and pretended everything was fine. Stage 1 was regional stress. Smaller banks started showing problems first. Credit cooperatives, small regional banks, they'd lent heavily to local real estate developers. When developers couldn't repay, these banks were insolvent. But instead of admitting failure, the government let them continue operating. Zombie banks, dead but still moving. Stage 2 was emergency measures that lasted not months, but years. The Bank of Japan cut interest rates. The government created support programs. They allowed banks to hide their losses through accounting tricks. For nearly a decade, Japan pretended their banking system was healthy while it was actually bankrupt. This is what economists call the lost decade. But it was really a slow-motion bank consolidation disguised as temporary support. Stage 3 was forced mergers starting in 1999. The government finally admitted the problem was too big to hide. They started forcing bank mergers. In 1999, Industrial Bank of Japan, Dai-ichi Kangyo Bank, and Fuji Bank were forced to merge into Mizuho Financial Group. In 2001, Sakura Bank and Sumitomo Bank merged. In 2005, UFJ Bank merged with Mitsubishi Tokyo Financial Group. These weren't voluntary partnerships. These were government-directed consolidations to create banks large enough to absorb the losses without completely collapsing. 21 major banks became 3 megabank groups: Mitsubishi UFJ, Sumitomo Mitsui, and Mizuho. Stage 4 was deposit seizures through inflation and financial repression. The Bank of Japan held interest rates at 0 for over 20 years. If you had money in a savings account, you earned nothing. Meanwhile, inflation averaged 1 to 2% annually. Your deposits lost purchasing power every year. This was a slow confiscation, not dramatic like a bank holiday, but just as effective. Depositors subsidized the bank's bad loans through 0 interest rates that destroyed savings. Stage 5 was oligopoly control. Today, those 3 megabank groups control Japanese banking completely. Competition is gone. Innovation is gone. Small businesses can't get loans from local banks because local banks don't exist anymore. Everything flows through 3 institutions that are effectively too big to fail and too big to prosecute. Japan's pattern was real estate bubble collapse, creating regional stress emergency measures and zombie banks for a decade, forced mega mergers to hide losses, deposit confiscation through zero interest rates, and oligopoly control by 3 banks that still dominate 25 years later. Now let's look at Cyprus in 2013 because this is the most recent and most extreme example, and it's the model for what deposit seizures look like in the modern era. Cyprus is a small country, 3 million people, but it had become a banking center for Russian and European money. Cypriot banks held deposits worth 800% of the country's GDP, 8 times the entire economy. These banks had taken that money and invested it in Greek government bonds. When Greece went bankrupt in 2011 and restructured its debt, Cypriot banks lost billions. By 2013, Cyprus's 2 largest banks, Bank of Cyprus and Laiki Bank, were insolvent. They needed 10 billion euros to survive. But Cyprus's entire GDP was only 18 billion euros. The government couldn't bail them out, so they did something unprecedented. Stage 1 was regional stress. Laiki Bank and Bank of Cyprus announced massive losses. Depositors started withdrawing money. Bank runs began. The banks were hours from collapse. Stage 2 was emergency measures, but this time the emergency lasted only days. The European Central Bank gave Cyprus a deadline. Fix your banks or we cut off emergency liquidity. You have 1 week. Stage 3 was forced merger. Laiki Bank, the second largest bank, was shut down. Its assets were transferred to Bank of Cyprus overnight. Depositors woke up and their bank no longer existed. Stage 4 was deposit seizures. And this is where it gets scary because this is the blueprint everyone is watching. The Cyprus government announced that deposits over 100,000 euros would be bailed in to save the bank. Bailed in means your deposit becomes bank equity. You don't own cash anymore, you own worthless shares in a bankrupt bank. At Bank of Cyprus, depositors with over 100,000 euros lost 47.5% of everything above that threshold. If you had 200,000 euros in your account, you lost 47,500 euros. Gone. Confiscated. Not through taxes, through a bail-in. The government froze all accounts. ATMs limited to 100 euros per day. You couldn't wire money out. You couldn't write checks. Your money was trapped, and then 47.5% of it was taken to recapitalize the bank. Stage 5 was oligopoly control. After the crisis, Cyprus went from multiple banks to essentially one dominant bank. Bank of Cyprus absorbed everything. Competition eliminated, and the bail-in set a precedent that terrified depositors across Europe. Your bank deposit is not safe. It can be seized to save the bank. Legally, Cyprus's pattern was banking crisis from foreign exposure, 1 week emergency deadline, forced merger of second largest bank into largest, deposit bail-ins, taking 47.5% above 100,000 euros, and one bank controlling everything with a precedent that deposits can be seized. The pattern repeats. United States, 1930s, Japan, 1990s, 2000s, Cyprus, 2013. 5 stages, same sequence. Different countries, different decades, but identical consolidation ending with oligopoly control and depositors losing money. So let's define the pattern clearly, because once you see it, you'll recognize exactly where the United States is right now. Stage 1, regional stress. Small and regional banks show cracks first. They're exposed to a specific sector that collapses. Agricultural loans in the 1930s, real estate in Japan, Greek bonds in Cyprus. The stress starts in the periphery, not the center. The big banks look fine. The regional banks start failing. In the United States, in 2023, this was Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic. These weren't tiny banks. SVB was the 16th largest bank in America. But they weren't JP Morgan. They were regional, and they failed because they were exposed to the same risk. Rising interest rates destroyed the value of their bond portfolios, and their depositor base fled. Stage 2, emergency measures. The government and central banks step in with temporary support, liquidity facilities, backstops, guarantees. The goal is to stop the panic and prevent contagion. But here's the key. These measures don't fix the underlying problem. They just buy time. And during that time, the problem gets worse. In the United States right now, we're in stage 2. The Federal Reserve created the Bank Term Funding Program in March 2023. It expired in March 2024, but the stress hasn't gone away. Regional banks are still struggling. Their stock prices are still down 30 to 40%. Commercial real estate losses are still growing. We've been in stage 2 for 32 months, and it's about to end. Stage 3, forced mergers. When emergency measures can't extend any longer, regulators start forcing consolidation. Weak banks are merged into stronger banks. This is sold as necessary to protect depositors. But what it actually does is eliminate competition and concentrate power. The FDIC arranges these marriages. You don't get a choice. Your regional bank gets absorbed by a mega bank, and your account transfers automatically. The United States is about to enter stage 3 in January 2026. Why January? because that's when the commercial real estate refinancing wave hits hardest. Banks holding commercial real estate loans that are maturing will discover they can't refinance them. A building that was worth $10 million in 2020 is worth $5 million now. The loan was for $7 million at 3.5% interest. Now it needs to refinance at 8% interest. The math doesn't work. The borrower defaults. The bank takes the building and realizes a massive loss. When that happens across hundreds of banks simultaneously, stage 3 begins. Stage 4, deposit seizures. This is the stage most people don't see coming. The legal framework for bail-ins already exists in the United States. It's called the Dodd-Frank Act, passed in 2010. Title II gives regulators the authority to resolve failing banks through bail-ins instead of bailouts. Your deposits above $250,000 are unsecured liabilities. That means they can be converted to equity to save the bank. Most people don't know this. Most people think FDIC insurance protects them completely. It doesn't. And when stage 4 begins, probably in 2027 or 2028, people will discover that their uninsured deposits can be taken just like in Cyprus. Stage 5, oligopoly control, the end state. After the crisis, banking is controlled by 3 to 5 megabanks. Competition is gone. These banks are too big to fail, too big to prosecute, too big to regulate. They set the terms, they control access to capital. And because there are no alternatives, you have no choice but to use them. The United States is already moving toward this. That's the pattern, 5 stages. Regional stress, emergency measures, forced mergers, deposit seizures, oligopoly control. It happened in the 1930s. It happened in Japan. It happened in Cyprus. And it's happening now in the United States. Let me show you exactly where we are and what's coming. Stage 1, March-May 2023. Silicon Valley Bank collapses March 10th. Signature Bank collapses March 12th. First Republic fails May 1st. The 16th, 29th, and 14th largest banks in America, gone in 8 weeks. Total assets, over $500 billion. The immediate cause was rising interest rates. These banks held long-term bonds purchased when rates were 1%. When the Fed raised rates to 5%, those bonds lost 30 to 40% of their value. SVB had $120 billion in bond losses sitting on its balance sheet. When depositors realized this and started withdrawing, the bank collapsed in 48 hours. But the real cause, it wasn't interest rates. The real cause was commercial real estate exposure. Regional banks hold 70% of all commercial real estate loans in America. That's $2.7 trillion. Office buildings, retail centers, apartment complexes. These properties were financed when interest rates were 3% and occupancy rates were 95%. Now interest rates are 8% and office occupancy is 80%. The loans are going bad, slowly at first, then all at once. Stage 2, March 2023, December 2025. The Federal Reserve created the Bank Term Funding Program, BTFP. It allowed banks to borrow against their bond portfolios at par value, not market value. This was a gift. If your bonds were worth 70 cents on the dollar in the market, the Fed lent you 100 cents. Over $300 billion in BTFP loans were made. The program expired in March 2024, but many banks still have those loans outstanding. They're paying them back slowly, hoping their bonds recover value. They won't. During stage 2, the problems got worse, not better. Office vacancy rates rose from 12% in 2020 to 19% in 2025. Retail vacancies increased, apartment rent growth slowed, and most importantly, $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate loans are maturing between 2025 and 2027. These loans need to be refinanced. At 2020, interest rates of 3%, a $10 million loan costs $300,000 per year in interest. At 2025, rates of 8%, that same loan costs $800,000 per year. Most properties can't generate enough cash flow to cover $800,000 in interest, so the borrower defaults. The bank forecloses, and the building sells for 50% of the loan amount. The bank takes a $5 million loss on a $10 million loan. New York Community Bank almost failed in January 2024 for exactly this reason. Commercial real estate losses wiped out their capital. They needed emergency funding to survive. A dozen other regional banks are in similar situations, but haven't admitted it publicly yet. We're still in stage 2, but it ends in January 2026. Stage 3, January 2026, December 2027. The forced merger stage begins when the refinancing wave hits. In Q1 2026, the first wave of commercial real estate loans mature. Borrowers try to refinance and discover they can't. Banks try to extend the loans and discover they can't justify it. Defaults begin, bank losses mount. Regional bank stocks, which are already down 35%, will fall another 40 to 50%. The FDIC will step in and start arranging mergers. They did this with First Republic. JP Morgan didn't want to buy First Republic. The FDIC forced them to by agreeing to cover 80% of First Republic's losses. This was a sweetheart deal for JP Morgan. They got the good assets, the FDIC took the bad loans, and JP Morgan expanded into new markets without risk. The same thing will happen in 2026 and 2027 with dozens of regional banks. Banks in markets with high commercial real estate exposure will fail or come close to failing. The FDIC will arrange shotgun weddings with JP Morgan, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup. These mega banks will absorb the regional banks. Depositors will wake up one morning and find their bank is now owned by JP Morgan. Your account transferred automatically. No choice. By the end of 2027, I expect 200 to 400 banks to disappear through failures and forced mergers. Stage 4, 2027 to 2028. Deposit seizures begin. Not for everyone, not at first. But for uninsured depositors, those with more than $250,000 in a single bank, this won't happen to the mega banks. If JP Morgan gets in trouble, the government will bail them out with printed money because they're too big to fail. But regional banks, they'll be bailed in. Your money will be used to save the bank. And when this happens to the first bank, when depositors lose 30 or 40% of their uninsured deposits, panic will spread. Everyone with over $250,000 in a regional bank will try to move their money to JP Morgan or Treasury bills. This bank run will accelerate stage 4, stage 5, 2028, and beyond. Oligopoly control. By 2030, the United States will have fewer than 3,000 banks. The top 4 banks will control 65 to 70% of all deposits. Regional banks will be nearly extinct. Community banks will serve only the smallest towns, and every American will do their banking with one of 4 institutions. These megabanks will have complete control. They'll set interest rates on deposits near zero. They'll charge fees for everything. They'll deny loans to anyone they consider risky, which will be anyone without perfect credit. Small businesses won't be able to get financing. Entrepreneurs won't be able to start companies. Economic growth will slow because capital will be controlled by institutions that prioritize safety over growth. This is the timeline. Stage 1 happened in 2023. Stage 2 is ending now. Stage 3 begins in January 2026, 6 weeks away. Stage 4 comes in 2027 or 2028. Stage 5 is the permanent state that follows. So let's be clear about what this means for you. If you have deposits in a regional bank, you need to understand that your bank might not exist in 2 years, not because it did anything wrong, not because it was mismanaged, but because the commercial real estate crisis is going to force consolidation that eliminates hundreds of banks. Your account will be transferred to JP Morgan or Bank of America or Wells Fargo. You won't have a choice. If you have more than $250,000 in any single bank, you need to understand that amount above the FDIC limit is at risk. Not today, but in 2027 or 2028, when stage 4 begins and bail-ins start happening. The Cyprus precedent is real. The Dodd-Frank legal framework exists. Your deposits can be seized to save a failing bank. If you think the government will protect you, remember what happened in every previous crisis. In the 1930s, they closed banks and froze deposits. In Japan, they let zombie banks operate for a decade while depositors earned zero interest. In Cyprus, they took 47.5% of uninsured deposits. The government protects the system. It doesn't protect you. The 5-stage pattern is absolute. It has happened 4 times in modern history. United States 1930s, Japan 1990s, Iceland 2008, Cyprus 2013. 4 different countries, 4 different decades. Same pattern, same outcome. Regional stress, emergency measures, forced mergers, deposit seizures, oligopoly control. The United States is in stage 2 right now. Stage 3 begins in January 2026 when the commercial real estate refinancing wave hits and regional banks discover they are insolvent. The timeline is 6 weeks, not 6 years. 6 weeks until the forced merger stage begins. You cannot stop this. The pattern is already in motion. The commercial real estate loans are already maturing. The bank balance sheets are already impaired. The FDIC is already planning the mergers. This is happening whether you believe it or not, but you can protect yourself. The pattern has played out 4 times. Regional stress in 2023, emergency measures for 32 months, forced mergers beginning January 2026, deposit seizures in 2027, 2028, oligopoly control by 2030, 4 countries, 4 crises, 4 identical patterns. And the United States is following the script exactly. The only question is whether you'll be prepared when stage 3 begins. If this changed how you see the banking crisis, subscribe, because over the next 6 weeks, I'll be tracking the commercial real estate defaults, the regional bank stress, and the first forced mergers as they happen. You need to see this coming, because when stage 3 begins, it moves fast. And by the time it's obvious to everyone, it's too late to protect yourself. The pattern is clear. The timeline is set. Stage 3 begins January 2026, 6 weeks away.
So that's what Mike was talking about, right? They only keep a little bit in the bank. You have, it's going to be all transferred to the mega banks, right? Which is going to collapse the smaller banks. And so that's what he was talking about. Same thing with Taj. Many others have been telling you about this. I don't know how long this will last, but that's definitely going to play out, right? So, like he was talking about, anything 250,000 or more, they'll absorb that, right? Banks will take that. Anything less than that will be merged into, they'll be copied from one bank all into the mega banks.
Yeah, going in January 2026.
Yeah, that's why we played those this morning about the stocks, right? They're selling the stocks off.
Right.
History is repeating itself. That's why they know it's the same pattern,
Right.
right? So that's what everyone's been warning. Well, not everyone. Most people's been warning about. So go into the crypto, and they'll understand why they want to do this, because they're wanting to put everyone on the digital. Same thing they did back then with the gold and silver to give us fiat money.
So this channel is called Histo Fun. You just go click subscribe right there, get you the bell notification right there. That's how you do it. Make sure you got it all.
Yeah, it's a very good
Yeah.
channel to keep updated on what's going on.
Now that's just based on history.
Based on history, yes.
Right.
And they
It's
can
like-
see, well, they can see the patterns, and everything they're doing is exactly what they did before,
Right.
right? So, like they were talking about the gold and silver, because they're going to do this with the digital currency, what we're fixing to play next. The gold and silver will be what you want to hang on to, right? Because you're going to need that. But there's also an option with the crypto, if you do have it, that he tells you at towards the end here, how to go around getting it seized.
Right.
Possibly could help. Not guaranteed.
Right. So this is the 37 trillion Bitcoin confiscation, Trump's executive order. It's a 4-stage playbook, 1933 pattern repeating, right?
Yep.
So this is from even a different channel. We're talking about patterns and things repeating.
Yeah.
This is from the channel called Empire of Money on YouTube.
Don't learn from the past, you're
Doomed to repeat it.
And
All right.
we didn't do anything.
Just like in the days of Noah.
Yes. We still haven't done nothing. We keep hanging on to
Right.
what the politicians are saying, and therefore we're going to go through what we go through.
President Trump signed an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The media celebrated it. Pro-crypto policy, American innovation, leadership in digital assets. Finally, a government that understands Bitcoin. The price spiked. Crypto Twitter went crazy. Everyone called it bullish. Everyone except the people who actually read the order. Because if you read the language, if you study the legal framework, if you understand what strategic reserves actually mean in government policy, you realize this isn't what they're telling you. This isn't pro-crypto. This is the setup for something else entirely, something that happened before. In 1933, when the government used almost identical language to confiscate gold from American citizens, revalue it, and erase 40% of the national debt overnight. They called that one a strategic national asset, too. They said it was essential to economic stability, too. They gave the Treasury authority to acquire and hold, too. And then they made it illegal to own gold for 41 years. Executive Order 6102, the greatest wealth confiscation in American history, exposed only after it was too late for anyone to do anything about it. The United States government owes $37 trillion. That debt cannot be paid through taxes, cannot be paid through spending cuts, cannot be paid through economic growth. The math doesn't work. There's only one way to eliminate unpayable debt: devaluation, strategic, calculated, invisible theft of purchasing power from everyone holding dollars. And the mechanism they're using is Bitcoin. Trump's executive order isn't about innovation. It's about creating the legal framework to confiscate your Bitcoin, revalue it at 10 times the price they paid you, and erase trillions in debt using your wealth. This is the 4-stage playbook. Stage 1, create legal authority. Stage 2, accumulate quietly. Stage 3, mandatory sale at below market price. Stage 4, revalue after confiscation. Stage 1 is complete. Trump signed it in January. Stage 2 is active right now. The government is accumulating Bitcoin through seizures, fines, and silent purchases. Stage 3 is coming. Based on the debt crisis timeline, mandatory Bitcoin sales to the Treasury will begin in 2026 or 2027, and Stage 4 follows immediately. After confiscation, the government revalues Bitcoin to $1 million per coin, creates trillions in balance sheet assets, and erases the debt. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. The line-by-line language in Trump's executive order that sets it up. The 1933 gold confiscation that proves this exact playbook has been executed before. The 4-stage pattern governments follow when they confiscate assets to eliminate debt. And most importantly, the timeline for when Stage 3 begins and what you must do before it's too late. Because once mandatory sale orders go out, your Bitcoin is gone. And you'll watch the government revalue it to $1 million while you hold worthless dollars. Let me start with 1933 because this is the blueprint. The exact playbook Trump's executive order is following. Word for word, structure for structure. In 1933, the United States was drowning in debt. The Great Depression had collapsed the economy. Unemployment was 25%. Banks were failing by the thousands. Deflation was destroying everything. And the government owed more debt than it could pay. The debt to GDP ratio had climbed to 40% and was accelerating toward 50%. For context, that was considered catastrophic at the time. President Franklin Roosevelt needed a solution, not economic growth. That would take decades, not spending cuts. Politically impossible during a depression, not higher taxes. You can't tax broke people. He needed to eliminate the debt quickly, quietly, and legally. So he confiscated gold and revalued it. Here's how it worked. At the time, the United States was on the gold standard. The dollar was defined as 1 out of 20th of an ounce of gold. 1 ounce of gold equaled 20.67. This had been the price since 1879. For 54 years, gold was 20.67 per ounce. Your dollar was literally a claim on physical gold held by the government. You could walk into a bank, hand them a $20 bill, and receive 1 ounce of gold. The system worked because gold backed the dollar. Trust was absolute. But Roosevelt saw an opportunity. If the government owned all the gold, they could change the price. And changing the price would revalue their assets and devalue the debt simultaneously. So on April 5th, 1933, Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. The order had 3 key provisions. First, it declared gold a strategic national asset essential to economic stability. Sound familiar? Second, it gave the Treasury authority to acquire and hold gold on behalf of the United States. Third, it required all American citizens, partnerships, associations, and corporations to deliver all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates to the Federal Reserve by May 1st, 1933. 26 days. The order made exceptions for small amounts. You could keep $100 in gold coins, about 5 ounces, enough for jewelry or collectibles. But anything more was illegal. If you didn't turn in your gold, you faced 10 years in federal prison and a $10,000 fine. In 1933, $10,000 was a fortune, the equivalent of $200,000 today. The penalty was designed to ensure compliance, and it worked. Most Americans turned in their gold. They had no choice. The government knew who had it. Banks reported large gold holdings. Safe deposit box records were examined. Compliance was enforced. Between April and May 1933, American citizens delivered approximately 300 million ounces of gold to the Federal Reserve. The government paid them $20.67 per ounce. The official price? Fair market value under the gold standard. Then, on January 30th, 1934, 9 months after confiscation, Roosevelt signed the Gold Reserve Act. This act did 2 things. First, it transferred all gold from the Federal Reserve to the U.S. Treasury. The government now owned it directly. Second, it reset the official gold price from $20.67 to $35 per ounce, a 69% increase overnight. Here's what that did to the government's balance sheet. Before revaluation, the government held approximately 300 million ounces of gold worth $6.2 billion at $20.67 per ounce. After revaluation, that same gold was worth $10.5 billion at $35 per ounce. The government created $4.3 billion in value out of thin air just by changing the accounting price. But here's the key. The debt didn't change in nominal terms. The government still owed the same number of dollars, but those dollars were now worth less relative to gold. Before revaluation, $1 could buy 1/20th ounce of gold. After revaluation, $1 could only buy 1/35th ounce of gold. The dollar lost 43% of its value against gold. And because everything was priced relative to gold, the dollar lost purchasing power across the board. This is how the government erased the debt. The debt was denominated in dollars. They devalued the dollars by 43%, so the real value of the debt fell by 43%. The government's debt to GDP ratio dropped from 40% to 25% within 5 years, not by paying the debt, by devaluing the currency it was denominated in. They stole purchasing power from every American holding dollars and transferred it to themselves in the form of reduced debt burden. And the Americans who turned in their gold, they received $20.67 per ounce. They watched the government immediately revalue it to $35. They lost 43% of their wealth. And they couldn't buy gold again because it was illegal. The government made gold ownership a federal crime. You couldn't own more than $100 in gold coins until 1974, 41 years. Anyone who held gold through the confiscation, who refused to comply, who hid their gold, saw it go from $20.67 to $35 to $100 by the 1970s to $850 by 1980. They multiplied their wealth 40-fold while those who complied lost everything. This is the playbook. Confiscate at the official low price, revalue at the higher price, erase debt through devaluation, legal, constitutional, precedented. And it's happening again right now with Bitcoin. Let me show you Trump's executive order line by line because the parallels are exact. The order is titled, Strengthening American Leadership in Digital Financial Technology. Compare that to Executive Order 6102, titled, Forbidding the Hoarding of Gold Coin, Gold Bullion, and Gold Certificates. Different asset, same structure. Both frame the asset as strategic. Both position government control as necessary for economic stability. Section 1 of Trump's order establishes policy. It states that the United States government will position itself as a leader in digital asset markets. It declares that digital assets are vital to American economic security. It establishes that the federal government will acquire, hold, and manage digital assets as strategic reserves. Read that again. The federal government will acquire digital assets as strategic reserves, not encourage private ownership, not create a favorable regulatory environment. Acquire. That means take possession. And strategic reserve means government ownership, not yours. Section 2 grants authority. It directs the Treasury Department to develop frameworks for digital asset acquisition. It authorizes the Treasury to hold Bitcoin and other digital assets on behalf of the United States. It directs the creation of custody solutions, valuation methodologies, and accounting standards for government-held digital assets. Now, this is infrastructure. They're building the machinery to hold massive amounts of Bitcoin at government scale. Custody solutions means government-controlled wallets. Valuation methodologies means official prices separate from market prices. Just like gold in 1933 had an official price of $20.67 that the government could change at will. Accounting standards means how they'll report and revalue these assets on the balance sheet. Section 3 addresses acquisition methods. This is the critical section. The order authorizes acquisition through seizure from criminal enterprises, acceptance as payment for fines, penalties, and settlements, and purchase through market operations or strategic transactions. Seizure they're already doing. The government holds approximately 210,000 Bitcoin seized from Silk Road, Bitfinex, and other criminal cases. Acceptance as payment is new. This means crypto companies that violate regulations can pay fines in Bitcoin, and the government keeps it for the strategic reserve. Purchase through strategic transactions means buying. But notice what the order doesn't say. It doesn't set limits. It doesn't cap the amount they can acquire. It doesn't define what strategic means. This is intentional vagueness that allows unlimited acquisition. Now compare this to Executive Order 6102. That order declared gold a strategic asset. Check. Granted the Treasury authority to acquire and hold gold? Check. Required delivery to federal institutions. Trump's order doesn't require delivery yet, but the legal framework exists to add that provision later through regulation or subsequent executive action. The pattern is identical. The difference is timing. In 1933, Roosevelt went straight to confiscation because the system was already broken and he needed to act immediately. In 2025, Trump is building the infrastructure first. Stage 1, create legal authority. Stage 2, accumulate quietly. Stage 3, mandatory sale. Stage 4, revalue. The playbook is the same. It's just being executed more gradually because the crisis hasn't peaked yet. So let's define the 4-stage pattern clearly, because this is how government asset confiscation works. Stage 1, legal framework. The government creates the legal authority to acquire, hold, and value the asset. They declare it strategic. They grant agencies the power to take possession. They establish that government ownership is necessary for national security or economic stability. This stage happens quietly. Most people don't notice because it's just bureaucratic language in an executive order or legislation. Trump's executive order completed stage 1 on January 23rd, 2025. The legal framework exists. The Treasury has authority. The strategic reserve designation is established. Stage 1 is done. Stage 2, quiet accumulation. The government begins acquiring the asset before announcing their intentions publicly. They use mechanisms that don't spike the market price, seizures, fines, strategic purchases through intermediaries, over-the-counter deals that don't appear on exchanges. The goal is to accumulate as much as possible at low prices before the public realizes what's happening. The US government currently holds 210,000 Bitcoin. That's about $21 billion at current prices. But the target, according to Senator Cynthia Lummis's Bitcoin Act, is 1 million Bitcoin. That's $100 billion at today's prices. They need to acquire another 790,000 Bitcoin without spiking the market. So they're doing it quietly. Seizures are accelerating. Every major crypto crime results in government acquisition. Bitfinex hack, 120,000 Bitcoin seized. Silk Road, 69,000 Bitcoin seized. Every ransomware case, every exchange that violates regulations, the government is taking Bitcoin and adding it to the reserve. Fines paid in Bitcoin are new. Companies like Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, when they settle regulatory violations, they can now pay in Bitcoin. The government keeps it. Strategic purchases are happening through proxies. The Treasury isn't publicly buying Bitcoin on Coinbase. They're using intermediaries, OTC desks, and private transactions that don't show up in market data. Stage 2 is active right now. The accumulation is happening, and it will continue through 2025 and into 2026 until they reach the target or until the crisis forces Stage 3. Stage 3, mandatory sale. This is the confiscation stage. A crisis occurs, debt ceiling, dollar collapse, banking crisis, major economic emergency. The government declares that the crisis requires extraordinary measures. They announced that for national security and economic stability, all Bitcoin holdings above a certain threshold must be sold to the US Treasury at the official price within a specified time frame. The official price will be below market price. If Bitcoin is trading at $200,000, the official price might be $100,000. If Bitcoin is trading at $300,000, the official price might be $150,000. The government pays you half of what your Bitcoin is worth on the open market, but you have no choice. Compliance is mandatory. Penalties for non-compliance will be severe, just like 1933, 10 years in federal prison, massive fines, asset forfeiture, criminal prosecution. The government knows what you own. Every exchange requires KYC. Know your customer. Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, they all report to the IRS. They know your identity. They know your holdings. They know your wallet addresses. When Stage 3 begins, you'll receive a letter. You have 30 days to sell your Bitcoin to the Treasury at the official price. If you don't, you're committing a federal crime. Most people will comply. Just like 1933, the penalty is too severe. The government has your information, and they'll make examples of a few high-profile cases to scare everyone else into compliance. Stage 3 will happen fast, 30 to 90 days from announcement to deadline. The government will collect millions of Bitcoin from American citizens at below market prices. Stage 4, revaluation. After collecting the Bitcoin through mandatory sale, the government revalues it. They announce that for purposes of the US balance sheet, Bitcoin will be valued not at the price they paid you, but at a much higher official price. Let's say they collect 1 million Bitcoin through Stage 3 mandatory sales. They pay an average of $120,000 per Bitcoin. That's $120 billion in acquisition cost. Then they revalue Bitcoin to $1 million per coin for balance sheet purposes. Suddenly, the government holds $1 trillion in Bitcoin reserves. They created $880 billion in value out of thin air just by changing the accounting price, just like gold in 1934. But it's not just accounting. When the US government, the largest Bitcoin holder in the world, declares Bitcoin is worth $1 million for strategic reserve purposes, the market follows. Not immediately to $1 million, but Bitcoin reprices upward dramatically. $200,000 becomes $400,000, becomes $700,000 over 12 to 18 months. Close enough to the official valuation that the government's math works. And as Bitcoin rises 5x to 10x from where it was during Stage 3 confiscation, the dollar collapses. Because the revaluation of Bitcoin upward is the devaluation of the dollar downward. They're the same event. When Bitcoin goes from $100,000 to 1 million, that's not Bitcoin gaining value. That's the dollar losing 90% of its value. Food prices multiply by 5. Energy prices multiply by 5. Housing costs explode. Everything denominated in dollars becomes worth 90% less in real terms, including government debt. The government owes $37 trillion nominally. But after the dollar collapses 90% in real value, that debt is only worth $3.7 trillion in real terms. They erased $33 trillion in debt burden through Bitcoin revaluation and dollar devaluation. And you, the person who sold your Bitcoin at $120,000 during stage 3, you watch it get revalued to $1 million, but you can't benefit. You're stuck holding devalued dollars. The government stole your Bitcoin for half price, revalued it to 10x, and used it to erase debt. You were robbed legally. That's the 4-stage pattern. Legal framework, quiet accumulation, mandatory sale, revaluation. And the United States is in stage 2 right now. Now let me show you exactly where we are and what's coming. Stage 1 is complete. Trump signed the executive order January 23rd, 2025. The legal authority exists. The strategic reserve designation is established. The Treasury has acquisition powers. The valuation methodology framework is in place. Done. Stage 2 is active. The government holds 210,000 Bitcoin right now. They're accumulating toward the 1 million Bitcoin target. Senator Loomis introduced the Bitcoin Act in July 2024. The bill proposes acquiring 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years and holding it for at least 20 years. This is the official legislative framework. It hasn't passed yet, but Trump's executive order doesn't need congressional approval. He's acting through executive authority. The accumulation is happening quietly. Every criminal case involving crypto results in more Bitcoin going to the Treasury. Every regulatory settlement now includes the option to pay fines in Bitcoin. And strategic purchases are happening through intermediaries that don't report to public exchanges. The government is building toward 1 million Bitcoin at prices below $150,000, while the market is distracted by bullish narratives. Stage 2 will continue through 2025 and possibly into early 2026. The government wants to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible before stage 3 because once they announce mandatory sales, the window closes. They want maximum holdings at minimum prices. Then they revalue. Stage 3 is coming. The trigger will be a crisis. It always is. The government needs justification for extraordinary measures. In 1933, it was the Great Depression and banking collapse. In 2025, 2026, it will likely be one of 3 triggers. First, debt ceiling crisis. The US government hit the debt ceiling again in January 2025. The Treasury is using extraordinary measures to avoid default. But those measures run out by summer 2025. If Congress doesn't raise the ceiling, the government faces default or shutdown. This creates the emergency justification for mandatory Bitcoin sales to raise funds and stabilize the balance sheet. Second, banking crisis. Commercial real estate defaults are accelerating. Regional banks are failing. This was previewed in 2023 with Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, and First Republic. More failures are coming in 2025 to 2026 as $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate loans mature and can't be refinanced. When multiple banks fail simultaneously, the government declares a financial emergency and implements mandatory Bitcoin sales as part of the stabilization package. Third, dollar crisis. Foreign holders of US treasuries are selling. China, Japan, and others are reducing dollar reserves. If this accelerates into a dollar dump, the government needs to stabilize the currency. They announced that the dollar will be backed by Bitcoin and gold reserves. But first, they need to confiscate Bitcoin from citizens to build the reserve. Mandatory sale under emergency powers. Any of these 3 triggers leads to stage 3. Based on current timelines, the debt ceiling crisis could trigger as early as summer 2025. When stage 3 is announced, it will happen fast. The government will give 30 to 90 days for compliance. You'll receive notice through registered mail. You must sell your Bitcoin to the US Treasury at the official price by the deadline. The official price will be 40% to 60% below market value. Stage 4 follows immediately. Within weeks or months of collecting Bitcoin through mandatory sales, the government announces the revaluation. Bitcoin is now valued at $1 million per coin for US strategic reserve purposes. The government's balance sheet explodes. They hold $1 trillion in Bitcoin assets acquired for $120 billion. They created $880 billion in value. They use this to offset debt, stabilize the dollar narrative, and erase trillions in real debt burden through the inflation that follows. You, the person who sold at $120,000, watch Bitcoin go to $400,000, then $700,000, then approach $1 million over the next 12 to 24 months. You can't participate. Your Bitcoin is gone. You hold devalued dollars that buy 70% less than they did before. The government wins. You lose. This is the timeline. Stage 1 complete, Stage 2 active, Stage 3 coming 2025, 2027, Stage 4 immediately after. The pattern is in motion. Let me be absolutely clear about what this means for you. If you hold Bitcoin on an exchange, Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Binance, the government knows. They have your name, they have your holdings, they know your wallet addresses. When Stage 3 begins, compliance is not optional. They will send you a letter, you will comply or you will be prosecuted. Your Bitcoin will be confiscated at below market price. If you hold Bitcoin in self-custody in a hardware wallet you control, you have more options, but not immunity. The government will still send you a letter based on your exchange purchase history. They know you bought Bitcoin. They know approximately how much. If you claim you lost it, they may demand proof. If you refuse to comply, you risk prosecution. But proving you still have Bitcoin in a wallet they can't access is difficult. This is where non-compliance becomes possible, but risky. The choice will be comply and lose 40% to 60% of your Bitcoin value immediately, or refuse and risk 10 years in federal prison. Most people will comply, some will not. Those who don't, who successfully hide their Bitcoin through self-custody, will watch it appreciate 5x to 10x as the government revalues it. But they'll be outside the law. They'll be unable to sell on regulated exchanges. They'll hold a massively valuable asset they can't legally spend. Here's what you need to do right now. First, move your Bitcoin to self-custody immediately. Get it off exchanges. If it's on Coinbase, withdraw it to a hardware wallet you control. Trezor, Ledger, Coldcard, not your keys, not your coins. If the government orders exchanges to freeze accounts and transfer Bitcoin to the Treasury, exchange-held Bitcoin will be gone instantly. Self-custody gives you options. Second, minimize your KYC exposure. Every Bitcoin you buy on a US exchange creates a record. They know you have it. For future acquisitions, consider peer-to-peer platforms where you buy from individuals without exchange involvement. Consider Bitcoin ATMs that don't require ID for small amounts. The goal is to acquire Bitcoin that isn't in government databases. Third, consider geographic diversification. If you hold significant Bitcoin, consider storing it internationally. Hardware wallet in a safe deposit box in Switzerland or Singapore, jurisdictions that won't comply with US confiscation orders. If your Bitcoin isn't physically in the US and isn't held by a US entity, enforcement becomes nearly impossible. Fourth, have a compliance strategy before the order comes. Decide now what you'll do when Stage 3 begins. Will you comply and accept the loss? Will you claim you lost your Bitcoin in a boating accident? Will you hold through non-compliance and risk prosecution? Make this decision now, not in panic when the letter arrives. Know your risk tolerance. Fifth, diversify into other hard assets. Don't put everything in Bitcoin. The government may confiscate Bitcoin specifically, but they can't confiscate gold the same way in 2025 that they did in 1933. Too many people hold gold internationally. Too much gold is privately vaulted outside the banking system. Diversify into physical gold, real estate, other assets the government can't easily seize. The four-stage pattern is absolute. It worked in 1933 with gold. It's working now with Bitcoin. Legal framework established, quiet accumulation active, mandatory sale coming, revaluation after confiscation. The United States government is executing the largest wealth transfer in history, and they're using Bitcoin to erase $37 trillion in debt. Stage 1 is complete. Trump's executive order created the legal authority on January 23rd, 2025. Stage 2 is active. The government is accumulating 1 million Bitcoin through seizures, fines, and silent purchases. Stage 3 is coming between late 2025 and mid-2027, when a crisis triggers mandatory sale at below market prices. And Stage 4 follows immediately. Bitcoin revalued to $1 million, government creates $1 trillion in assets, debt erased through dollar devaluation. The parallel to 1933 is exact. The executive order language is nearly identical. The legal framework is the same. The mechanism is identical. The outcome will be identical. Those who comply will lose 40% to 60% of their Bitcoin value immediately, and another 70% to 90% of their purchasing power through inflation. Those who don't comply will either be prosecuted or become wealthy by holding through the revaluation outside the legal system. 4 stages, 1 playbook, 92 years between execution, gold in 1933, Bitcoin in 2025. Same pattern, same outcome. The government wins. You lose, unless you see it coming and position accordingly. If this showed you a pattern you didn't recognize, if you understand now that Trump's Bitcoin executive order isn't pro-crypto, but the setup for the largest confiscation in history, subscribe. Because over the next 18 to 24 months, I'll track every signal that Stage 3 is approaching. Every new Bitcoin seizure, every regulatory settlement paid in Bitcoin, every sign that the accumulation target is approaching, every crisis that could trigger mandatory sale. This is not financial advice. This is pattern recognition. The pattern from 1933 is repeating in 2025, Executive Order 6102 confiscated gold. Trump's executive order will confiscate Bitcoin. Legal framework complete. Accumulation active. Confiscation coming. Revaluation after. The $37 trillion debt will be erased using your Bitcoin. Position yourself accordingly. 4 stages. The playbook is clear. Stage 3 is coming. You have 18 to 30 months. The choice is yours.
There we go. Go ahead.
Okay, so remember we told you Trump is the liquidator, right? That's exactly what they're doing, right? So if you hold any digital, that's what's coming. Just like they did 1933, where they confiscated your gold, right? But gold was tangible. You could hide it. You could people buried it in their yards. And then took 41 years before they could cash it in. They had to wait a long time, but it was worth waiting if they had gold. A lot of people buried silver, but silver never went up. But they made it illegal for a long time, right? Couldn't hold it. So same thing with Bitcoin. If you can hold out, it may go. I mean, we're going to go up. It's going to be valuable. It will go up. But if you don't turn it in, you can face prosecution, right? If you do, you'll lose 40 to 60% of the value. If you hold out, you won't be able to spend it until they make it legal again, right? But you could do it like they said. They give you options. You could do it with each other. You transfer it to offshore accounts. So there's options, and it's, you know, the people that hold out, and many people said this, you hold out on any of this. You push back, don't comply. That's the whole point of this, right? It pays off when you don't comply. You might have to go through some stuff, might be hard, but it will pay off in the end.
So the thing that I got out of that, besides I like learning true history, for once, that this is an exercise to wake people up. So this isn't like the big money. I mean, it is a money steal, of course, but at the end is supposed to really be about people coming together, waking up, understanding what's going on. So that's kind of a saving. Like before, it was just flat out, I'm taking everything you've got. Now it's supposed to be, everybody waking up. So do you see that too? Like, is there?
Well, it's actual happening. It's not just to wake you up. It should wake you up, though.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, that the United States was in debt to who? Right, bankers. Right, that all took place when they traded in our gold. Right, so the only way to cancel in that debt is their debt. It was the government's responsibility. Right, they not ours. So they have to clean out the debt, which is good for us in the future. In the meantime, we have to go through this because that's all for real. That's the only way that you can dissolve things, right? So it's happening for a good reason that will help us later. In the meantime, it's not too good for a lot of people.
It's going to be a little bumpy.
Yeah, it's going to get real bumpy. Right? Like, if you listen to Tosh, we played several of his videos. He talks about how the inflation is going to go even higher, right? Because they're going to devalue the dollar. That's their whole goal, is to get everybody on the digital currency, the Peter Thiel, all the stuff we've been showing you. So they're going to keep crunching it until the dollar is worth nothing.
So if
Right.
you sell $150,000, if you take the $150,000, for example, it won't feel like 150,000 because as soon as you take it, that it's going to be devalued as soon as they increase the price of the Bitcoin to $1 million of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So your dollar is just going to be worth shit. So that 150 is really going to feel like more like 75,000.
Right. So that's why Trump got all the Bitcoin reserves, right? He put billions in Bitcoin reserves, and he's going to confiscate to even get more, right? So that's the whole point of it. Yeah, he's the liquidator.
Obsession, and that's it. So in ancient Rome, they gave the people bread and circuses. They kept the populace busy with entertainment. But other dictatorships use other strategies to control ideas, the knowledge. How do they do that? Lower education, they limit culture, censor information, they censor any means of individual expression. And it's important to remember this, that this is a pattern that repeats itself throughout history. Every dictatorship.
Right? It's a pattern that repeats itself over time. Right? And here's the part of the movie where we're at. This is parenting from like the 70s. I think maybe likes this one. But this is where we're at, right?
Don't do that, sweetheart.
This is where we're at, right? When you're trying to tell somebody
Yeah.
something,
Yes.
right? And instead of allowing the person to learn the lesson, the mother tries to step in real quick. Don't do that, sweetheart. And the father says, no, no, no. Some can be shown. Some can be told, but others have to be shown.
Yep.
So this is
It's
that.
dangerous.
No, wait. Well, go on. Yeah, but you're not going to do that again now, are you?
Don't do that, sweetheart. It's dangerous.
No, wait. Well, go on. Yeah, but you're not going to do that again now, are you?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, good
It's all
times,
about how do
times.
you teach. Some people teach differently. I don't know. You got to some, they want to put. Some people want to put knee pads and helmets on their kids when they ride a bicycle, but they still, regardless of what you put on them, they're still going to get hurt. But
So
you got to let them learn a lesson. You got to let them. You got to let them put the fork in the socket.
if you bought gold and silver, that's the way to go. If you bought into the digital, that's when you have to worry about that.
Right. All right. So the next one is here we go. All right, you can check your Apple phone as well and see if you already have the digital ID thing in your wallet.
Already signed up for the digital ID without even knowing it. Here's how. There won't be a sign-up sheet or app that you have to download. Digital ID will be created for you by our generous government. It will simply be given to you without your required participation or consent. Once implemented, one by one, all the systems you use, financial, health, education, the internet, shopping, etc., will all require it. Without it, you'll be cut out of the system. This is happening right now in Russia and India. How will they do this? It's quite clever and simple. And this is how it's already been done in other countries like Denmark and Italy, where they issued 40 million digital IDs. All the government needs is to pair your government ID with biometric data. They can then combine your legal identity with your biometric data and create your digital ID. That's it. Poof, and it's done. So how are they already doing this? Well, the necessary ingredients came online when the Real ID Act was implemented. because it is no longer just a state ID, but now a national federal ID. And where do you need it? At the airport. The airport is where TSA set up their biometric face scanners. That's the data that's combined when you show your real ID or another federal ID. That combination is the recipe for a digital ID, and you're creating it without even realizing it. So, the most important step you can take is to opt out of TSA's facial scanners every time you fly, and never provide biometric data to anyone. Without the biometrics, no digital ID can be created. If you want to remain free of total surveillance and control, you must opt out now.
And I got a video for how to opt out. All right. You also don't forget about the 74, section 74 in that,
Yes.
where it says it's voluntary.
It's voluntary. That means they have to give you an option.
Yeah.
If they don't want to, and they'll say they can't, but they have to. Also, I'm trying to find the thing that TSA is going to charge $45 fee if you don't use your real ID to fly. So they're going to make it more and more inconvenient if you don't. Might want to drive.
Yeah, that's gas money.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't mess with us. We'll go buy a bunch of campers like they did in the 70s and just drive all over the country like hippies.
Right? Yeah.
Heck yeah.
That's what probably we should be doing.
Be caravanning.
Be on the move at all times.
History repeating itself.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Here we go. Let's see if I can play this.
Have their real ID yet. What is your advice to them? What should they do?
So if you two things. One, if they have their real ID, and one, if they don't have their real ID. If they don't have a real ID, then they should never get one.
Hold on, let me see try to play this right here. Yeah, this is a little wonky. Looking for the volume button, it doesn't have it right here. I'm gonna have to play it. Okay, there we go.
Passport card. There are actually.
What would you recommend for people that are in states they don't have their real ID yet? What is your advice to them? What should they do?
So if you two things. One, if they have their real ID, and one, if they don't have their real ID. If they don't have a real ID, then they should never get one, ever.
Okay.
And if they are afraid about flying, they should go get a passport or a passport card. There are actually 16 different identification cards that are allowed by the TSA, and you can just look up. You can just look up acceptable identification TSA and you will find them all. You can also go to refuserealid.org and we have a link to those 16 different identifications. Get yourself a passport, get yourself a passport card at the very same time. Refuse the real ID at all costs because they are setting up the system, the biometric digital control system, essentially bars, prison bars for all of us, and this net is closing and we must stop them from doing it. So that's the most important thing that you can do. You should tell your state legislators and your members of Congress. So I have been to Washington, D.C., and they're like, 3 months ago, they said, we're not hearing from anybody. I said, we're going to change that. We're going to change that because it's all about freedom. We will not have freedom if we have a national ID card that can track us everywhere and control what we can and cannot do. And so you need to talk to your state legislators. You need to talk to members of Congress. And if you go to refuserealid.org, we also have just a place you can click on and just send some automated messages to your members of Congress. And please use social media. This is one of the best things. Share our documents on social media. we have, and I think that was being showed there at refuserealid.org.
Yeah.
Here's 7 reasons to repeal, but there's also the make a switch. So we have instructions to help you if you have a Real ID to get out of the Real ID. Now, unfortunately, I just heard from somebody in Indiana. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Yeah.
I just heard from somebody in Indiana who went to the DMV, and they were told, well, yes, if you never had a Real ID before, we'd let you have a standard driver's license. But now that you have one, we won't let you. So that, I don't believe they have any legal reason or rationale for that. But this is the DMVs going rogue, trying to push everybody into the Real ID.
All right, Twyla, thank you so much for your incredible work. I know you're in Washington, D.C., putting your money where your mouth is, as they say, and meeting with your representatives right now and our national representatives to get to the bottom of this. Everybody get involved. Go to refusetherealid.org right now. Share this information. Reach out to your representatives. This is that moment. This is what really essentially the Maha movement is about, right? Getting involved. We are involved. The government is listening to us. We want to show pushback. We want their phones ringing off the hook. That's how you make a difference. That's what makes change, not because you elected some official that's going to go in and do this job for you. You have the voice. You have the power. Twyla, thank you so much for this incredible information. We have a very active audience. I know that they're going to get involved today and start pushing and backing you up in the work you're doing. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much, Joe.
And get over here to Texas. Help me go and knock down the walls here at the state capitol.
Will
all right?
do.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, so she tells you how to do it. You can go to the
Sage, what's the deal with
refuserealid.org. And there's all the information in there. Or you can also go to www.cchfreedom.org. But refuse it. If you already have one, you can go back. Tell them that you want the standard, and the information is in there how to do it, because they cannot make you, even though they're trying to act like they can't give you any other option. They have to give you an option. So you just have to fight for it. Also, they're on the website. You can contact your representatives and tell them, voice your opinion. Let your voice be heard.
And since then is you now have 6 companies, 6 large multinationals that control every radio station in America and all of the television stations in America and 80% of the newspapers. The television news departments have become corporate profit centers. They no longer have an obligation to benefit the American public. So their only obligation is to their shareholders. How do they satisfy that obligation? By expanding viewership so they can sell more ad space. How do you expand viewership? Why, you do that by appealing to the prurient interest that all of us have in the reptilian core of our brain for sex and celebrity gossip. So they give us Lacey Peterson, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jackson, and lots of terror alerts, because that gets viewership as well. But they're not telling us the real news that is affecting people in this country. The fact that today, 1 out of every 6 American women now has so much mercury in her womb that her children are at risk for a grim inventory of diseases: autism, blindness, mental retardation, heart, liver, kidney disease.
There it is. That was a throwback.
Yeah. Right? His voice wasn't that scratchy.
No, it wasn't a scratchy right there, was it? Crimes against nature.
Yeah.
Right? And he's talking about in the womb, starting in the womb. Right?
Yes.
Where that goes all the way back to scripture, right? In the beginning was the light,
Yes.
which is this right here. It looks almost like an eclipse. Did y'all see that?
Read this thing over you.
Huh?
read the thing and
Oh, go ahead, read it. This goes all the way back to Genesis,
yes.
right here.
Mhm.
I have it on my Telegram under the video, wherever that's at on there. You can find it, and we'll play it. All right, here's to go along with. Most people would make fun of how she looks, right? Some people would call her a liberal freak, right? Not knowing her situation. But you're going to be shocked to find out who this is. All right. So let's not judge books by their covers because you don't know what that person's been through, right?
That's right.
So wait until you find out who this girl is.
Hi, welcome to my jacuzzi. Today my special guest is the executive producer of the Amanda Show, Dan Schneider.
Hi.
Now you're the executive producer of the show.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
You actually wrote the words we're saying to each other right now. Right now?
Yes, I wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now.
Since you're the executive producer.
Give me an IC. Can we have an IC before since you're the executive producer?
I see.
Now, I see now since you're the executive.
Hi, welcome to my jacuzzi. Today my special guest is the executive producer of the Amanda Show, Dan Schneider.
Fine.
Now you're the executive producer of the show.
Yeah, I am the executive producer and I'm the head writer.
You actually wrote the words we're saying to each other right now.
Yes, I actually wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now.
I see. Now, since you're the executive producer of the show, can I have a ring?
No.
Okay. How about I play the spaghetti?
Nah.
No.
I'm kidding, I'll have some spaghetti.
Okay.
Bring the spaghetti. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Right? You would never think
Nope.
seeing this person,
But she went through a lot.
right? This is why they wanted the abortions so bad, right? They were impregnating these girls and they were having to get abortions.
Yep. Look at that. Post office.
The what?
The post office.
Oh, I think it's this one here. Oh, on Telegram right here. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's go up here to the post office clips. Remember the post office being the bank?
Yeah. So I think we covered this last year or the year before.
So before we do that real quick, so at the moment of conception, a flash of light erupts. A sperm's enzyme, upon penetrating an egg, releases a burst of zinc ions, commencing fertilization. The spark of brightness indicates health and viable the egg may be for developing into an embryo. In essence, life truly begins with a flash of light, a luminous alchemy of creation. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Genesis 1 and 3. That's what we played on the screen. Okay. We already played that. All right, so let's go.
So we went over the banking, what they have planned for the banks, right? But this is where I think this will come into play because the post office used to be the bank for the people. What is it? It used to be the banking until the U.S. Postal Savings System offered depositors a U.S. government-backed guarantee of security, but it was undone by for-profit private banks. So if they merge all the banks into one, like they said, the 4 mega banks, I think I'm predicting that this postal bank will come back into play for the people because they've started a pilot program because postal banking could provide
I'm trying to get to a video.
posting banking could provide free accounts to 21 million Americans who don't have access to a credit union or a community bank, right? So I think this will come back into play as an alternative, right? Because they used to bank when the banks came in, the Federal Reserve banks, people did not trust the bank, so they used the post office as the bank.
Right, which brings me to
PO box and I get a key and I open the PO box and I put a silver coin or a bar of gold or 10 bars of gold. Maybe I get a big PO box. Maybe I stack a lot of gold and silver in there. Let's just say that happens. Okay. And I'm the only one with the key. Who else can touch it?
I would say the clerks or like the clerks that actually put the mail inside.
Can they touch my gold or can they only put mail inside?
So they can only put mail inside.
So who else can touch it?
Nobody, just you.
Or whoever has the key. Can I duplicate that key legally? Or is it a federal offense?
That will be a federal offense.
We the people want to know. So in theory, I could use it. What are the hours of the PO box at the post office?
See, that I don't know.
Oh, I can tell you the door is always open, ma'am. You can go 24/7. So what you're saying to me is you can use the PO box as a bank to hold your silver and gold or anything else? Is that what you're saying? Let me see that hair.
Possibly.
Can I see that hair? Ooh, girl. Whose truck is this? Hey. Oh. Dance for me, dance for me, dance for me. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Dancing in the rain, girl. Dancing in the rain. Look at those moves all day.
Okay,
ma'am, is this your truck?
It's the post office.
Does it belong to the postmaster or we the people?
No, it belongs to them. It doesn't belong to me.
All right. Well, safe travels and safe drive. And thank you for delivering the mail, ma'am.
Okay, so I think that comes into play why we were told not only to get a trust, but a P.O. box, right? So he's telling you something there. That was Richard, citizen journalist, right? Because if the banks get absorbed and they take your assets, which has happened before in the past, like think of safety deposit boxes, right? So the People's Bank at the post office. The postal savings systems offer depositors U.S. government-backed guarantee of security, but it was undone by for-profit private banks. The icon indicates free access to the post offices in the United States used to host the postal savings system. It was a form of non-profit savings banks and existed from 1911 to 1966. Let's see. Millions of Americans deposited their earnings at the local post office. In fact, the bank fraternity would maintain its enmity towards the government savings bank for its half-century lifespan. Bankers finally killed it off in 1966, ironically aided by the New Deal rescue of their for-profit banking system and the post-World War II decline in popular political engagement with economic issues. So that's around the New Deal was Roosevelt, right? 1933. The first postal savings system was set up in the Great Britain in 1861. As Shaw details, the demand for postal savings in the U.S. came out of the fierce struggle between workers and farmers and bankers in the late 19th century. Such entities as the United Labor, American Federation of Labor, and the National Grange and the People's Party all championed the idea of an alternative for-profit banking. In the words of the New York State Knights of Labor, the nation needed a postal savings bank to keep people's monies safely from the itching palms of stock-jabbing bank officials. Like many of the compromises in the unending battle of many versus the elite few, In 1910, Postal Saving Banks Act was modest. The system could operate only in designated post offices, redeposit its funds into existing banks, and pay a non-competitive 2% interest rate. Shaw writes that there was also a 500 deposit ceiling, and virtually no money was ever spent on publicizing the service. But as the Boot and Shoe Workers Union declared, the act established the principle of postal savings. Supporters hoped there would be opportunities to expand it. Ferocious oppositions by bankers, however, prevented such expansions except for the increase in the deposit ceiling of $2,500 in 1918. In the 1910s, most postal depositors were in the Northeast and West and were typically new immigrants, not a few who had experienced such systems in Europe. Southern and Midwest depositors started using the system in greater numbers in the 1920s. Shaws notes that the miners in particular favored postal banking. In 1930, the highest per capita deposits in the system were found in Roundup, Montana. Then came the Great Depression. Between 1930 and 1933, more than 9,000 banks failed across the country, like we were just talking about, as failing assets values, loan defaults, heavy withdrawals, illiquidity, and mismanagement contributed to an unprecedented banking crisis. Bank deposits fell from $59.8 billion to $45.9 billion during this period. At the same time, postal saving deposits skyrocketed from $164 million to $902 million. It was a bank rush in reverse. Americans flocked to the safety of the post office to open accounts. Faced with the economic suicide of capitalism, President Roosevelt's New Deal worked to save private bankers rather than expand the postal savings system. Federal Deposit Insurance, FDIC, also helped shore up disgraced bankers and gave the public more confidence in banks. The Affordable Credit System, inaugurated by the New Deal, meanwhile addressed a central concern of postal saving advocates. Nevertheless, postal savings persisted. At its peak in 1947, the system had $3.4 billion on deposit, but a rising middle class boosted it into a better post-war life by government action and spending, began to think of the postal saving, especially with its low interest rate, as the thing of the past. Writes Shaw, the increase of the postal system deposit did not revitalize population political engagement with the institution. Bankers represented in Congress finally managed to end the postal saving in 1966 when the system was still being used by a million depositors. Today, banking is an oligarchy too big to fail, and with its outsized influence in politics, for many it's hard to imagine banking alternatives. Yet, our history and our continuance of postal saving system elsewhere in the world point to other ways. So that was an alternative. And they started a pilot program in 2020. Let me see. What is this? It's 2 years ago. They started a pilot program, right? So to see, they've already started it. So I'm thinking that's going to be the alternative. We can reverse that and go back to postal banking, which is more for the people.
There you go. All right, we just watched that. Meanwhile, for those that are confused about Trump's sudden obsession with Venezuela and determination to liberate that nation from drug dealers, quote unquote, this short clip will explain plainly what is really going on, right?
Appreciate it. They're going to end up taking over the country eventually, but the people will appreciate it and they should pay us back. But we have to go in to save these lives. We should do on a humanitarian basis, immediately go into Libya, knock this guy out very quickly, very surgically, very effectively, and save the lives. After it's all done, we go to the protesters who end up running the country. They're going to like us a lot better than they will if we don't do it. More importantly, we're going to save lives. And we should then say, by the way, from all of your oil, we want reimbursement. We should have said, we'll help you, but we want 50% of your oil. They would have absolutely said, okay, 100%. In fact, they would have said, how about 75%? So, and isn't it sad? We could have had anything we wanted. We could have had 50% of those oil fields. You know, in the old days, when you had a war, it's to the victor belong the spoils. So we could have had something special. When the so-called rebels came to us, we should have said, fellas, we're going to help you. We want 50% of your oil. They would have said, thank you very much. We have a deal. Write it down, sign it. We have a deal. We would have been a rich nation again. They have tremendous oil reserves in Libya. Instead, we help, we get nothing. We're very, very foolishly led. Our leaders, unfortunately,
are stupid little piggies.
Yeah, so that's why they went Venezuela, right? They've done this time and time again throughout history. It's never about a war. It's always about resources.
ultimately,
Yeah, for those who believe the U.S. backed coup in Venezuela is about helping the people, here's Trump in 2011 explaining how regime change should be used to steal natural resources. Note Venezuela has the biggest oil reserves in the world.
Right, and they're struggling. Isn't that crazy?
How are they struggling? They got the boat, the
Their
300.
government, just like Mexico, they're struggling. They have
Crazy.
millions. Every country has so much resources, but
But the people are poor.
yes,
So the condition of the people doesn't change.
exactly.
It's the greed.
It's the greed.
So not only are they raping the earth, they're raping the people.
Yes,
We live in an upside down world,
yes.
right? Where 1% control the 99 until the 99 wake up and flip the table that's been built on their backs.
It's going to keep going until everyone wakes up and stands up.
Now let's go. Start backing up, gunfire. Back up. Now let's go. Back up. All the travel, we're in contact, major contact. Action. Look. Now let's go. To the left. Back up. All the travel, we're in contact, major contact.
And cut.
Wish my wounds healed that fast.
Say that again.
I wish my wounds would heal that fast.
Right?
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning, weren't we?
And no scar even.
Right? Oh, play that pilot.
The pilot.
They talk about the artifacts.
Oh, you'll have to just pull it. Oh, okay, I got you right here. Let me go right here.
It's a little low, so you might want to turn it up.
Okay, not that way. We've already covered all that. Go back this way. Probably gonna make some people dizzy here. Hold on. Right here. Coming up. Here it is. All right. Could barely hear that.
There will be living waters connected coast to coast. On this plane of existence.
You can read it.
You'll have to read it.
Ancient ones, the Virgils, the Seraphim angels, Mother Sophia, and Gaia are reconnecting the waters. They're purging the filth. They are creating the living water system once again, and it's in our skies. They will not tolerate any more manipulation with our skies or the waterways and the land. Now, I'll embark on more of an investigation of what they're requesting change in what order. And we can access this information and we can communicate and we can collaborate and help be safe. All right. Humans are here on the planet, and the planet is now reacting to the energetic shifts and to the energy of the planet itself. Now, she's going to reclaim a lot of her lands because it's necessary for the flow of life on this planet, this plane of existence. Yes, this is a reality. So hang on to your hats. It's going to get really interesting. And I'll do my best to keep you updated. We're putting together the team of investigators, and we're going for artifacts that were present during the last planetary shift. So these artifacts were buried in the mud floods, in the catastrophes, or whatever you want to call it. And those times that the ancients knew of the shift that was coming. So they buried all of their artifacts. Their artifacts are living memory vaults of these time spaces. We're uncovering them and seeing what civilizations were actually like then, what they were doing. And it's very exciting. These are all brand new discoveries over the last 15 years that have never had any type of publication or any public acknowledgement. It's all been going on behind the scenes. A lot of it was very risky for the men. They risked their lives. There were many, many lives lost, families uprooted, a lot of intervention from other entities. Because when you're dealing with pulling these artifacts out of the ground, there's a lot going on besides just uncovering these statues, these crystals, these plaquettes, these magic boxes, all these different types of, artifacts, these relics. Our mission is to protect this valuable information, to record it, to get it to a safe place, and to preserve these artifacts and keep them in Mexico, keep them on the lands where they're discovered, and work with the people in those communities to set up a system so that it can create a wealth stream for them. This is one huge, huge, huge discovery. Their technology can assist us through the shift. This is disclosure. I will bring it to you in book form, video form, short form, artifact form, and with an explanation. So stay tuned. G. Investigations. The Galactic Lighthouse.
Here we go.
So basically, he was saying that the artifacts that we're finding that was been buried under the mud floods, right? Some of that stuff can help us through these times, right? But be put out by not who you think it's put out by. It goes back to the rightful owners. That's who will put it out.
like sports and rap and industry things. As time progresses, do you think that will eventually die down or eventually die off?
Everything in the third dimension is the epitome of an illusion. A lot of people have a lot of artificial purposes. You becoming a basketball player, that's not a real purpose. Becoming a doctor, that's not a real purpose. Becoming a lawyer, becoming a bank teller, owning their own business, CEO, these are not real purposes. And the reason I say that is because it's connected to everything in third density. And there's no evolution for the third dimension. So that means that three-dimensional materialistic aspects of the world has to be basically eradicated. The only thing that lives in frequency in the higher dimensions is truth and healing. Over the course of time, you have to tap into your authenticity, which leads you to your purpose. What is your true purpose outside of playing basketball and catching a football? What is your purpose outside of going to work and working a 9 to 5? Once people tap into their true purpose, that's when the real reset is going to happen on the planet. The illusion of purpose by way of the sports and going to work every day, it stagnates your true purpose. Just like some of the people that's playing basketball and sports and things of that nature, they threw the warrior class and they put them in sports. Some of these people are supposed to be a part of fifth dimensional civilizations. They're supposed to be the protectorates of certain parts of organizations and certain movements or whatever. There is no evolution for the third dimension whatsoever. So a lot of the things that people love and they venerate in this system is going to phase out over the course of time.
I mean, I feel like it's the same shit. It's the same cycle too. Like we get football season, same time each year, same shit, same trophy, same Super Bowl. And it's like people love it. You know what I'm saying? It's like we in this big ass cycle. And it's like, it's cool to watch, you know what I'm saying? But it's like over time, you like, damn, I didn't watch 20 Super Bowls. It's really the same shit, different players. The only thing that you really kind of see that's different is like, you can see the evolution of like humans, you know what I'm saying?
They got to keep you in a loop because the loop is also a part of the spell. It's a ritual. Anything that operates in cycles is a ritual. When it comes to the universe, everything has structure and everything moves on a logistical principle, but there's always evolution. Evolution doesn't live in the reality of time loops. It's outside of time. Evolution in itself is what collapses time. Time is a form of entrapment, but evolution carries on because it's the frequency of non-ether.
9 ether. 6 ether. Your antennas, your hair.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. All right, let me go down here.
Everybody finna learn some science, finna learn about your body. Right now, let me teach you about your body. Let me teach you why you don't want to get angry. Right, let me teach you why. Because don't nobody know. Because everybody slow. But let me teach you. Listen, so you got a body. You got a magnetic field around your body, right? So I'm gonna teach you about your magnetic field first. So your magnetic field is the field that protects your body, right? So they created things like food to affect your magnetic field, but you think it affects your body. But let me tell you this, when you eat food that's grown from the sun, it's energy and it energizes your body. When you eat food that's dead and then it kills your body, but it don't really kill your body, it kills your magnetic field. Right? So we got to understand what the magnetic field is first. So the magnetic field is like an egg. It can crack, right? Let me teach you something about the magnetic field. Every time I give some love to somebody, boom, I leave, something leave me. It leave my magnetic field, but it come back, right? So let me tell you why not to get angry, right? Your magnetic field will be around you, right? Your magnetic field around you, then a lot of thoughts won't come to your head. A lot of people can't trick you. You won't be double-minded when your magnetic field is tight, right? But listen, so your magnetic field is broken when you, every time you're angry, it start cracking, it start breaking. Now anything make you angry. Now you just a wild man. Now you think that what you do good is good, but it's really bad because you coming from a bad space. See, it ain't about good or bad. It's the place you in when you do it. Listen, it ain't about good or bad. It's the place you in when you do it. Listen, you can see two things, right? And both of these things can be considered wrong. But depending on the mindset and when you do it, that would determine whether it's right or wrong. Oops, dee-doo. Nobody knew that, huh? Yeah, nobody knew that. Everybody knew something else. See, everybody don't understand that nobody can be held captive, right? That they cannot come get me. For them to come get me, my mind got to be taken over first. When they get your body, that means your mind been taken over first. Stop playing with me. I'm too smart for them to get me. Yeah, I know where to put the message at. I know how to do it. I'm too smart. They'll never get me, right? But when they get people, you know that they got themselves first. They worries kicked in. They got the stress kicked in. When all them stuff kick in your mind, take over your mind, it's gonna take your body. They'll never get me.
Right? That's the secret.
It's free your mind, baby.
Don't fear. Don't stress. Don't panic. Right? If they got your mind, they get everything else.
Yeah, no panic, baby.
I love that.
Isn't that cute?
See, dogs have rhythm too.
Mm-hmm. See how fluffy he was? It's so
Heck
cute.
yeah. That's right. Dogs do have rhythm. All right.
You can't watch that and not at least smile.
Right? That was cute.
Here's another Google ad that just came out. I've shared it this morning, but we'll show that real quick. Let me bring this all over there. Hold on.
We live largely in a world of illusions. And in a sense, as we have a physical existence now, all the elements that make it up, all the habits that we have, all the institutions we maintain, the entertainment we choose, the ideas of education we keep, all of these are part of what might be called the obscuration of ignorance. And they are part of the negative individual magnetic field. While we live in the negative field, we react to the negative factors. And little by little, these negative factors destroy us, or at least they impoverish the spiritual values within ourselves, until finally inside of ourselves, the colors and luminous forms of the magnetic fields become clouded and dark and dismal. The magnetic field of the narcotics addict is a rather pathetic thing. The narcotic field of the person who has no integrities, no values, who lives upon the surface of ignorances is bad. And also, this magnetic field, being negative, perpetuates itself from within itself. And little by little, the individual who has gradually become more and more vicious finds that the viciousness increases, until finally he reaches a point where he must change or lose the values of the incarnations through which he has passed.
There you go. Here's the Google ad. If Kevin was left home alone in 2025, right? So this is the best Google ad ever. According, this is the business magnets.
Mom? Dad? Hey, Google, what's on my calendar today?
You have one event called House to Yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Google, add aftershave to my shopping list. Hey, Google, remind me to clean these sheets later.
Okay, I'll remind you.
Too bad AC
Someone's at the front door.
What do I owe you?
Looks like you paid online.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Google, turn down the temperature 2 degrees. Hey, Google, begin Operation Kevin.
Operation Kevin underway.
You will get a sentimental feeling when you hear
Better get out of here before somebody sees us.
voices singing, let me jolly, let the house party.
Operation Kevin, huh? That's funny. You know that's a CIA operation name, right?
Anything operation is.
So that's if Home Alone was filmed in 2025 and you see all the technology around him, right? It's different devices, surveillance kind of state. How,
They have blown the whistle. Campbell's Soup now has become a whistleblower. They have blown the whistle on Little Debbie snack cakes. They're telling us they investigated them little white Christmas trees, bioengineered food, all of it, 3D made. Can you believe that? And Campbell's blowing the whistle on Little Debbie's. Bioengineered goodness.
well,
Good. Campbell's Soup now has become a whistleblower. They have blown the whistle.
bioengineered food. Operation Little Debbie. I think that's Operation Little Debbie.
Probably one of those too.
Other than that, Pam Bonnie's going to expand the National Guard. That's all. But we're over here like, got it vibe high, baby.
Is yourself, your procrastination, your ego, the food you're consuming, the knowledge you ignore, the behavior you're nurturing and what you're trying to improve at. Compete against that. If you're serious about change, you have to go through uncomfortable situations. Stop trying to dodge the process. It's the only way to grow.
Just run through the fire is what I do. What is that, the red balloons? All right, so there you go. A little bit of information, a lot of information, but not new information. It may seem redundant, but it'll pay off. All right.
Yes. Right. So all the information. Don't panic. Don't get stressed out. There will always be options. There'll all be things in place, right? Just make the right decisions. Like they said, don't invest in
Don't put
everything
all
in
your
one
eggs in one basket.
right?
Yeah.
And even with the people that have cryptos, they have an option as well, right? There's things they can do to protect themselves. So it's not an end all, but you got to remember all this has to take place because you have to take down something to rebuild something, right? When it's no good, when it's all rotten, you have to take it down. So even though it looks really bad, it will work out for us better in the end. But we have to go through this.
So this is very sorry to announce that James Rink, who was a victim of MK Ultra programs designed to turn him into a super soldier and who was subsequently created the popular Super Soldier Talk YouTube channel, has died of a cardiac-related issues at the age of 45.
45. Yep.
Yeah. James wrote his autobiography, Lone Wolf, Alpha Squad Copy Over 2025, which described his difficult life and his determined research into MK Ultra programs and super soldier training for secret space programs, SSPSs. He organized multiple conferences and online events highlighting super soldier and SSP testimonies. James and his closest supporters believe he was targeted at his last super soldier conference held in Orlando, Florida in October 2025 by a DO aimed to stimulate the heart failure. James warned several conferences presenters that some presenters were being targeted this way. This is what my sheepdog was talking about, how they can drop you,
Yeah,
right, with the
that's what
technology that they have.
yes.
And then here we have this situation that is taking place, and this is allegedly on the do aim to stimulate the heart failure because they could do it in multiple different ways.
Right. And Sabrina Walls talks about it as well. You haven't followed her, follow her. She shows you all the information on her Telegram as well, all the documents. Also, there's in that book, Everything's a Lie, Nothing's the Truth. It talks about all those devices and the patents. So it's real. I mean, they've had that forever though. They used to have like the heart attack gun, but now they got more sophisticated with all that.
Right.
Not saying that that was the case, but that's what they suspect. Oh, play the 903 at the bottom.
Oh, okay. There's one.
Answer that question.
I'll answer the.
Let me make sure I'm added to the screen here. Yeah, it's okay. Let me slide that over there.
Question. You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What's up, America? Let me put something in your mind real quick, but I'm going to say it the safe way, so read between the lines. Most people still think the big shifts they're seeing, the political shakeups, the military transitions, the global restructuring are coming from the faces they see on television, the actors, the avatars, the public stage. But here's the truth most never hear, and nobody's telling you. Those moves don't originate at the surface. They originate at the source. There's a group of individuals, not celebrities, not politicians, not corporate mascots, who hold something far more powerful than a title on a screen. Lineage, authority, inheritance. These are the heirs apparent. People who carry ancient bloodlines, spiritual backing, lawful standing, and documented heritage that ties into the stewardship of this planet itself. And here's the part folks don't understand. When an heir apparent files a claim, not a social media post, not a viral video, but a lawful, historical, genealogical, spiritual declaration, it triggers things. Quietly, invisibly, behind the curtain. Suddenly you see a general moved here, a politician removed there, a corporation restructured, a law revisited, a resource redirected, and the public thinks, wow, look what that person is doing. But the people on TV are the downstream, all right? The heirs are the upstream. Think of it like this. The world you see is the shadow, the filing, the claims, the inheritance. That's the real hand cast in the shadow. The ones who inherit the responsibility of stewardship aren't playing for fame, attention, or audience applause. They're restoring balance, realigning what was hijacked, and taking back roles that were left vacant for generations. No capes, no spotlights, just duty. And when those documents hit the record, etheric or physical, the system adjusts. The players you see on stage simply act out the shift that already happened in the background. You're watching the echo, not the cause. So if you're wondering why things are changing, why structures are collapsing, why new systems are forming, it's not because of the personalities you see on the news. It's because the rightful stewards have quietly stood up, the heirs, the ones with the claim, the ones with the lineage, the ones who are meant to guide this cycle. I'm not saying who they are, and I'm not saying who they're not. I'm just saying everything you're watching is downstream of something far older, far deeper, and far more intentional. When the heirs apparent rise, the world follows. So stay awake, stay aware. The real moves never show up on the surface first. I love y'all. 903 out.
You'll give, yeah.
Who are the white hats? The heirs. Right? It's the
Yeah,
heirs.
that's what the comms was with the ear, was the heirs.
The heirs, yes.
The one he got.
Like that guy talked to. The waters we're talking about is the waters above, right? It carries information, the codes. That's why they were told not to manipulate the weather anymore. Stop the spraying because the people could receive the codes and the information, and they could start remembering. And that rightful heirs is the ones who claim it right? Into the
Yeah.
ether, like they're talking about. So it's not anyone that you see in the political arena or anyone on TV at all. Like you said, those are the ones downfall. That's one's taking everything down. The heirs are going to rise up.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it. Great show. We'll see y'all first thing in the morning in the Telegram chat. Please join us. Thank you for flying with us at Sheepdogs Airlines. We are going in for a landing. Please fasten your seatbelts. We will be descending here shortly.
Ascending.
Do what?
We're ascending, not descending.
Ascending? Oh,
We need to ascend, not descend.
oh, oh. Oh, there's the seatbelt signs. Please fasten your seatbelts.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Hunter. Good night, Casper. Much love to all.
Good night, everyone. Love y'all.
Who let the dogs out? 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 When the party was nice, the party was bumping. And everybody having a ball. I tell all the fellas start the name calling.